Good day. Today, me and my group will be reviewing Shozada's business model and giving out pointers on how to improve their security system. My name is SHAHARUDIN and I will be presenting first. Shozada is an e-commerce platform that operates primarily in Southeast Asia. They provide a digital marketplace where individuals and businesses can buy and sell a wide range of products online. They offer a user-friendly mobile and web platform that allows users to browse through millions of products across various categories such as electronics, fashion, beauty, home appliances, and more. Now, being a major company in the e-commerce business, we as a team have analyzed the system to find out the weaknesses and flaws in their data security. So let's dive deeper. First, we need to understand the business model. There are three critical processes in Shozada's system that require attention, those being the product catalog, customer relationship, and order management. I will explain more in detail with context to data, lifecycle, and security. We'll start with product catalog management. This process involves managing and maintaining the product catalog on the website, which includes adding, updating, and deleting products. Together, we have the data we have gathered in this product are category, product, and supplier information with more details written underneath each of those. The lifecycle is divided into four, those being entry, processing, storage, and retention. The data from the supplier will be sent to the server where it will be decompressed and kept at warm sites for 3 years. The personnel with access are mostly website and database admins with the exception of the supplier at the entry. Next is order management. This process involves managing customer orders from time of placement to the delivery of products. The data gathered are customer, ordered, and payment information, more details on the screen. Following the life cycle previously, the order will be sent to the server, decompressed, kept at warm sites for a maximum of 1 month. The personnel with access to these data are mostly website and database admins with the payment gateway provider at the processing stage. Third will be customer relationship management. This process involves managing customer interactions and maintaining relationships with them to improve customer satisfaction and retention. The data gathered are customer and marketing information together with communication history. The feedback by customers will be added to the servers, decompressed, stored at warm sites for a minimum of 1 year. Those with access are mainly website and database admins with the supplier and customer service getting the information at the entry and processing stages respectively. Now, moving on to security measures. First, we have to regularly back up the customer relationship management and product catalog data and store it securely to prevent data loss in case of system failure or cyber attacks. Next, it's best to implement data anonymization and pseudonymization techniques to protect customer privacy. Third, we use authentication and access control mechanisms to restrict access to customer relationship and product catalog management systems. Fourth, we use payment gateways to process customer payments and protect sensitive information. And finally, we can use encryption and secure protocols to protect data during transmission between the website, payment gateway, and customer. Now, that's all for me. I will pass it to the next person.
All right, thank you so much, Adam. My name is HAQEEM KAMAL. My ID is 119102618. And first of all, I'll be presenting about the personnel categorization. Now, the personnel mentioned before in Adam's presentation can actually be categorized in various ways according to what was mentioned in the PDPA 2010. So first of all, the database administrator that Adam mentioned can be categorized as a data user. A customer can be categorized as a data subject. The payment gateway provider can be categorized as a data processor, and the everything else miscellaneous, such as supplier, vendor, website administrator, and customer service representative, can all be considered as third parties. Now, what does this all mean? Well, according to the PDPA 2010, a data user is any user that processes or has any control or authorization of the personal data. A data subject is the subject of the personal data. That's why it's the customer. And a data processor is any non-employee who processes the personal data for the data user. And the third party, as I mentioned, is like the miscellaneous version of it. It is anybody that does not fulfill any of those conditions or categories. Now we'll be talking about mapping the PDPA requirements to the data lifecycle and ways that will make sure that everything is compliant with PDPA 2010. First of all, let's talk about the data storage. The data storage follows the security principle where the category of data users has to make sure to take practical steps to protect the personal data. And this is in regards to the nature of the personal data, the place or location where the storage of the personal data, security measures taken when protecting the storage of the personal data, measures taken for ensuring secure transfer of personal data, as well as measures taken to ensure that you can trust the personnel handling the personal data. Next is data processing. In data processing, we follow the general principle, where in the general principle, it states that for non-sensitive data, the data subject actually has to give their consent before any processing or any work can be done on their personal data. However, for sensitive data, the personal data must be processed except in accordance with the provisions of Section 40. So for our case, for Shozada, the address of the user will be considered as sensitive data, and thus it falls under the for sensitive data part of the general principle. Now, there are exceptions to this. For example, for the performance or contract involving data subject, or for taking steps at the request of the data subject, or any compliance with any legal obligation involving the data subject, then it is allowed to process data of the data subject without their consent. Data processing also has a part to play in the security principle, where it states that when the data processor operates on behalf of the data user, then they must provide sufficient guarantees for the technical and organizational security measures, as well as make sure to take reasonable steps to ensure compliance with the measures that has been set. Now let's talk about data retention. Data retention follows the appropriately named retention principle, which states that any personal data processed for any purpose at all must not be kept longer than necessary to carry out that aforementioned purpose. It also says that the data user should take all reasonable steps possible to ensure that all personal data is destroyed when no longer required. Now let's talk about the data entry or access. This follows the access principle, where it says that data subjects should be given access to their own personal data held by the data user. So a customer should be able to access their own data. And as such, it also states that a data user should be able to edit their personal data if appropriate. For example, if it's outdated, if it's incorrect, etc. Now, once again, there is an exception to this where if compliant with a request is refused under this act, then data entry can be disallowed. Now, let's talk about what happens if you do not comply with the PDPA 2010, if you do not follow the principles mentioned before. Well, first of all, for data processing, if any unauthorized or excessive processing is found, then you can be fined up to 300,000, imprisonment up to 2 years, or both. For non-compliance with a security measure, you can get 200,000, imprisonment of up to 2 years, or both. As for non-compliance with obligations as a data processor, then you get up to 500,000 or up to 3 years, or once again, both. For data storage, however, if it is found that you had inadequate security measures for the data storage, for example, it is not securely taken care of, there's not enough security for it, then you can be fined up to 300,000 or imprisonment up to 2 years, or both. For any unauthorized access or disclosure of the personal data towards the data storage, then you can be fined up to 500,000 or imprisonment up to 3 years, or both. For data retention, if it is found that you had retained any personal data beyond the required duration, as mentioned in the retention principle, then you can be fined up to 200,000 or up to 2 years in prison, or both. For failure to securely dispose of the personal data after you finish using it, then you can be fined up to 500,000 or imprisonment up to 3 years, or both. And finally, for the data entry or access, if it is found that you did not find compliance with the data subject, then you can be fined up to 500,000 or imprisonment up to 3 years, or both. And finally, for non-compliance with informing the individuals about the purpose of the data collection, then you can be fined up to 100,000 or 1 year in prison, or both. Alright, that's it from my part, and I'll be passing the floor to Arif. Thank you.
A very good evening, sir. My name is FARHAN bin ZAKI. My ID is 12012011319, and today I'll be presenting task 3, which is security measures we've implemented in order to protect our database in general surface from internal and external attacks. We will implement 3 types of security measures by using database firewalls, implementing access controls, and comprehensive data encryption for the database system. As e-commerce companies are often targeted by phishing and other cybersecurity methods, these measures will help to ensure the confidentiality of our database management system. So moving on to our first implementation, which is the database firewalls. Direct access to database should be limited or denied if the use case will allow it. Firewall rule changes must be controlled by change management procedures and trigger alerts for security monitoring. Organizations can deploy specialized database tools that include special firewalls such as the Oracle Audit Vault and the Database Firewall. This offers a comprehensive solution for handling a significant volume of audit data, mitigating the risk associated with SQL injection and application bypass attacks, addressing unauthorized access concerns, and ensuring compliance. It achieves this by gathering and consolidating audit data and generating detailed reports for forensics analysis and compliance purposes. Moving on to our second implementation, which is the access controls. Access controls can be narrowed down to 3 processes, which is authentication, authorization, as well as audit. First of all, authentication is the process of providing the user is who he or she claims to be by entering the correct user ID and password. Authorization allows each user to access certain data objects and perform certain database operations like read but not modify data, modify but not delete data, or delete data. Moving on to the last one, which is audit. Auditing tracks database activities and helps maintain compliance with security standards by recording database events to an audit log. This allows you to monitor ongoing database activities as well as analyze and investigate historical activity to identify potential threats or suspected abuse and security violations. And then moving on to our last implementation, which is the comprehensive data encryption. By strengthening data encryption, these capabilities makes it easier for organizations to secure their data and comply with regulations. There are 2 regulations, which is always encrypted data and transparent data encryption. Always encrypted data, it offers built-in protection of data against theft in transit, in memory, on disk, and even during query processing. Transparent data encryption protects against the threat of malicious offline activity by encrypting stored data. Transparent data encryption performs real-time encryption and decryption of the database. Associated backups and transaction log files at rest without requiring changes to the application. That is all for me. Thank you.